Hi everyone and welcome to a very special WARNO Dev Blog. I am pleased, no delighted to announce that I have taken over as Creative Director of WARNO. After much deliberation, you'll also be pleased to hear that they will allow me to work remotely from the UK because you know and I know I was not looking forward to having to eat frogs' legs and snails. What does this mean for WARNO though? Well, big changes, important changes to both bring in new players and give viability for a long, healthy life for WARNO, bringing it in line with other big titles of the modern age, and also some minor balance changes that I'll list at the end. Now, I'm obviously still having a war with the French over the name of the next milestone, but we all know that being English, I will eventually win that war as we win all the wars, and as a result we shall tentatively call this milestone Wellington. And now it would not be an Eugen Dev Diary without a bit of history, right? So let's talk about Wellington. Hey, I just thought of another great thing. I don't have to say a load of French words anymore and get them wrong. Superb. So Wellington. Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of Wellington, was born in Dublin in 1769 and joined the British Army in 1787. Interesting fact, outside of the military, he was also elected as a Member of Parliament in the Irish House of Commons. After this, he became a colonel by 1796 and saw action in the Netherlands and India, fighting in the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War at the Battle of Seringapatam, and was appointed governor there in 1799, and as a newly appointed Major General won a decisive victory over the Maratha Confederacy at the Battle of Assaye in 1803. But let's get on to the good stuff, the stuff we all know him for. He rose to prominence during the Peninsular Campaign of the Napoleonic Wars, promoted to Field Marshal after leading forces to victory against the French in the Battle of Victoria in 1813. And then the 100 Days in 1815, he commanded the Allied army together with the Prussians and defeated Napoleon at Waterloo. His battle record is exemplary, participating in some 60 battles during his career, and obviously deserves his own milestone because he's much better than any of the French generals or commanders. In his later years, he became Prime Minister for one full term and then just a month in 1834, but stayed in the House of Lords until his retirement and was actually Commander-in-Chief of the British Army until his death in 1852. Okay, history lesson over. What's coming in the Wellington milestone? So, what exciting changes can you expect? Well, first, there's going to be new national traits. Yes, that's right. Each nation's unit will get some new traits. We will expand on these over time, but this is the starting point. US-based divisions will be getting the late to the party trait. All reinforcements called in during the battle have a 50% chance to take 2 extra minutes to enter the fray. But this does not apply to previously called in aircraft, for example, just brand new units that are being called in during. The British will be getting the new tea time trait. This only applies to ground forces, which ties into another new feature, advancing time of day. 10 minutes of the game will equal 1 hour of in-game time, with matches starting at a random time of the day. If it happens that the 1600 hour mark is hit, or the 4 PM time, whatever you want to call it, rolls around, the British forces will stop for a spot of afternoon tea. For 2 minutes, they will be unable to fight or move during this time. They will, however, get a temporary buff afterwards for 10 minutes, called Tea Party, which will give them a 10% movement and fire rate buff. So pick your timing wisely and you might get a big boost. West German forces will be getting the beer break trait. This only again applies to ground forces. Between 12 noon and 1700 hours, the West German forces will have a random chance once per game of going on a beer break. Like the British, this will make them immobile for 2 minutes, after which they will gain the buzz buff/debuff. They have increased morale and will sing songs for the next 10 minutes. However, the debuff side is that they will struggle to drive vehicles and tanks in a straight line, so be careful when you move them for those 10 minutes. Next up are the French, and all French ground forces will gain the white flag trait. This will give them a 50% chance to immediately run in terror from the battlefield when coming under fire. Belgian forces, which no one really cares about, will get the trait We Have Been Forgotten. A 25% chance for their morale or cohesion to randomly drop to low when not in combat. This can be recovered by moving them into combat with allied units so they feel less alone. Over on the Pact side, the Russian infantry forces will gain the Not Enough Equipment trait. Any non-special forces infantry that spawn into the map will have a 25% chance of only having half the number of assigned weapons, though they will still have the same number of men. And then East German infantry in a similar vein will get the Even Less Equipment trait. With East Germany being often equipped by the Russians, they will suffer even more from lack of equipment. They have a 25% chance to spawn with bolt-action World War II rifles rather than their modern equipment. However, to counter these big changes to the Pact infantry, they will also get a new ability which can be activated called Dull the Pain, where they can drink vodka, improving their morale for 5 minutes, but also reducing accuracy by 25%. So that's all the new traits we have for now, but there will be more coming, so stay tuned. We're also exploring an idea that was once brought up in Wargame, where you may be able to choose from a selection of national leaders for your deck or division before entering the game, which may give you additional bonuses and debuffs. Let's now move on to the next big addition and correction. CVs will be reverting to how they worked in Wargame Red Dragon, including having a main base point to capture so that you can bring in reinforcements. But there is a twist. The new forward command post. Now that Eugen has finally caved and added fobs, the code is in for buildings, so let's expand on that. I present to you through my awesome concept art, the forward command post. This can only be placed during deployment, the same as the supply point, and only in the initial command zone. It is optional and will cost 200 points initially. But it is highly resistant to enemy fire, being partly a bunker, so even heavy artillery fire can't kill it. It requires a full infantry assault to infiltrate the building to take it over. But the FCP has its own defences, initially in the form of machine gun nests. But as with any good RTS, you can upgrade the FCP during the game. You can pick 2 upgrades in total, and at the moment we have the following options. The Defense Suite. The FCP gains anti-tank missiles, either Conkers or TOW2, and anti-air missiles, either Iglas or Stingers. These do not need to be resupplied and can be fired 2 missiles at a time. Then there is the Anti-Air Battery, a long-range anti-air radar and missile battery added beside the FCP. NATO forces will get a Patriot missile system and the Pact forces get an S-300. For the sake of balance, the range is limited to 10,000 meters, but this should give really good coverage on the back end of the map. The next option is Artillery Command. This has a special artillery counter-battery radar, which reveals enemy artillery that is preparing to fire across the map, and responds with its own counter-battery fire faster than other artillery can. Next up is the Cruise Missile Command. This gives the player, at an additional cost per firing and at a cooldown of 10 minutes, the ability to call in an off-map cruise missile. These target a single unit and do not lose target lock, so they are guaranteed to kill, doing massive damage on impact. To keep this fair, however, these units targeted by a cruise missile will get a warning laser designation dot above them and an audible warning so the enemy can move other units away from them. But goodbye, you annoying Buratino. I know it all sounds really exciting and fun, right? Now, depending on the response, obviously we can push for more base building. Okay, now let's finally talk about DLC, future financing of the game. I know this is a controversial topic, but it's important that we keep up with the times. That's why, other than the standard DLC you might expect, such as divisions or maps or new nations, etc., it is time to move on to cosmetics. That's right, soon you'll be able to buy cosmetic packs for your units to give them a unique look on the battlefield. Some will also be available for free for completing the operations, tutorials, and coming soon for taking part in multiplayer games via the new Battle Pass system, which will be coming to WARNO. But more information will be coming about the Battle Pass in a future dev blog. Last year, the team worked very hard on Mustaches for Infantry, and while it was initially a bit of a joke, everybody was actually really keen, so this will actually be the first cosmetic DLC coming to the game. For just £3 you can add Mustaches to your Infantry, and this will be launching next week. Following on from this, you can expect in particular skins for tanks and other vehicles, including the aircraft and helicopters, and this will obviously include a variety of different camos, including desert camo, winter camo, you know, the usual. However, in an effort to bring in the younger generation to WARNO, we will also be adding anime-style skins. You will have noticed that these were recently added to Battlefield as well, and we have to keep up with the times. Some of these will be in-house designed by Panzer, but we will also be looking to do bespoke deals with third parties and try to bring in some well-known anime characters. For example, I guarantee you we will be getting a Hello Kitty T80UD. And we are already hard at work at a unicorn themed pack, where your tanks will no longer leave dust trails, but will leave trails of rainbows. Okay, last but not least for this devblog, let me give you a few balance changes. First up, let's have a look at NATO. The Challenger 1, all variants of, will be having their armour adjusted. Front armour will be increased to 24, side armour 15, top armour 5 and back armour also 5. Shobham is the best armour in the world, and the Chally is covered in it, so there. The Abrams M1 also sports Shobham armour, but is less armoured and lighter, so it moves faster, which is fair enough. Its front armour will range from 20 to 22 depending on variant, side armour will be 12, top armour 4 and back armour 3. The final change on the NATO side relates to all French ground forces. They will have their accuracy reduced by 10%, that's right folks, an end to the French favouritism. Over on the Pact side, it has been brought to my attention by Grigory that all Russian tanks have really terrible reverse speed. As a result, we will be reducing all Russian tanks' reverse speed to a maximum of 4 km per hour. This, much like the corrections to the Shobham armour sporting tanks, is an effort to return the game to a little bit more realism, while attempting to also maintain balance. Finally, the other immediate change will be to the Buratino, because I'm sick of it. It will be returning to its Wargame Red Dragon position of being napalm only and no longer thermobaric, meaning it will do significantly less damage to vehicles and will barely touch tanks. Obviously there will be more balance changes coming, but that's all we've got to announce for now. Thank you everyone for watching this new format devblog. Let me know how excited you all are down in the comments below, and I'll see you all on the battlefield.